Welcome back, everyone. It's June 28th, 2020. I'm JerryVHall, and here's the view from Costa Rica. Well, a quick peek at the markets shows us XRP down below 18 cents. Now, I know this has an effect on a lot of people. They question their investment. I know I do at times. I'm only human, right? Well, I put together this video today for you in hopes that you will be able to see the forest through the trees. This is a macro view. I want to zoom out and take a look at the macro view of where we have been so that we can have a context of where things are likely to go. Some of you may remember from a previous video, this value accelerators graphic I put together, investor sentiment, pace of innovation, pace of adoption. I'm going to focus on these three elements in this video. We're going to start with innovation. Innovations, addressable markets. Keep in mind, this is a big picture view for this space. Blockchains. How can they, what innovations are they really bringing to bear here? How are they going to affect the world? Well, for one, protecting rights through immutable records. Things such as land titles, intellectual property, the ownership of stuff. It'll be recorded using these distributed ledger technologies and dApps. How about the existing sharing economy that's come on the scene in the last 8 or 9 years? Access to everything from rides to songs. Well, guess what? Everything that is owned can and will be rented on an as-needed basis. And as this space grows, all those middlemen will be displaced. Bye-bye Uber, bye-bye Spotify. Value transmission, right? Person to person, business to business, governments and capital markets. Distributed ledger technology will reduce costs and speed up settlement for the end users while displacing the rent takers in the middle who have in the past provided the trust and certainty, i.e. confidence, that the markets needed. That's right. Blockchain is a big trust machine. How about data? Companies and governments have collected data to profit either in the form of sales or influence. Now, with dApps, individuals will be empowered to own and monetize their own data, customizing what is provided versus what is required on a case-by-case basis. Let's go take a quick look at the Internet of Things. Never before in history has this taken place, but it's on the scene now and will grow. Devices becoming economic actors. This is a whole new world filled with both what we can see and all the use cases that we can't even see yet. I want to take you to a clip from Don Tapscott speaking to the point that has allowed the very few to receive so much of the pie. Distributed ledger technology and digital assets will provide access to so many more and level the playing field, mainly because the rules of the game are not easily changed to suit those in power.
So let's begin by talking about the corporation. The corporation is part of the real economy and the traditional economy. The corporation was actually enabled by double entry accounting hundreds of years ago. But as we move towards triple entry accounting, where you not only have a debit and a credit, but a third entry on a blockchain, the corporation is beginning to change profoundly. And 80 years ago, there was a Nobel Prize-winning economist named Ronald Coase, and he posed a deceptively simple question. He said, why do we have the corporation? Why do we have the firm? He said, if Adam Smith is right, and the open market is the best mechanism for allocating goods, resources, information, money, Why isn't everybody an independent contractor at every step along the way in production? Why do we all work for a firm? And he said the answer is, and he won a Nobel Prize for saying this, the answer is transaction costs. And he talked about 4 classes of costs. First of all, the cost of search. Imagine trying to find all the right people to do something, the right information, the right money, the right assets in an open market. Every time you tried to do something, well, that would be prohibitive. So we bring search inside the boundaries of a firm where we have filing cabinets to find information and org charts to find people and a corporate treasurer to find money and so on. Secondly, he said, the cost of coordination. Imagine trying to get all these people in an open market to work together and create a car. That'd be prohibitive. So we bring that inside the boundaries of a firm where we have management structures and processes to coordinate. Number 3 was the cost of contracting. If every little activity in the economy required a contract, a doctor's going to perform surgery, he'd have or she'd have to do 80 contracts with suppliers of equipment and scalpels and medicines and nurses and so on. Prohibitive. And finally, the cost of establishing trust. We bring all of these inside the boundaries of a firm where we can trust each other. Well, all of these costs are about to be devastated, blown to smithereens by blockchain.
So that was innovation. Let's go take a look at investor sentiment. Investor sentiment. Follow the money, folks. Now, I'm going to highlight here 2 categories. One, institutional investors, and the other, retail investors. Institutional investors have increasingly entered the DLT space for the last 3 years, mainly focusing their investments in the companies that are producing the technology. However, a greater emphasis has been placed over the last 12 months on actual digital asset acquisition for customer-facing products. I'm talking about BAT. I'm talking about Grayscale Investment Trust. And more recently, the announcement of the SBI Fund. Also, the movement of governments and para-governmental bodies, such as central banks, the World Bank with their blockchain bond. It's big stuff. Follow the money. Now, on the retail front, us 35 million men and women on the planet. I've shown several times in the past, in previous videos, all the numbers that show a reduction in the retail investor pool. Now, this is measured by the amount of Facebook posts, Twitter posts, Telegram engagement on posts. But I need to remind you all of the progress in the development of consumer-facing on-ramps. It just continues to grow. Remember, there is an addressable market of 550 investors in the legacy system that will be targeted for entry into this space by the same institutional investors that are building the BACs and the Grayscales and the SBI funds and the inclusion of the Fidelity digital assets and the Eris X's and all these entities. They didn't dump all that money into creating a foundation so that it could just languish and go to zero. No. We're going to go look at some adoption. Adoption. The foundation is here. It's clear that the DLT digital asset space has cemented itself in the fabric of how value will be transferred/transmitted going forward. Remember, with any transformational technology, there is a curve in which adoption occurs. This is your standard innovation adoption curve. Now, there can be a debate. We can debate over where we are on this curve, but I think almost all of us, it would be fair to say that we are somewhere in between the 2.5% innovators and the 13.5% early adopters range of this curve. There is still so much more to go. Now, when we take a look at industries such as the transition from analog landlines to cellular data-driven wireless communication, as well as the Internet of Value and how that was created and how that's progressed, we have that recency bias, right? All the men and women around the world that remember a time before cell phones, that remember a life before the internet. We have that recency bias of these previous innovations previous to this blockchain revolution that will help inform the masses who are not yet aware. I'm thinking this adoption curve is going to be faster from a chronological period or reference as those innovation periods before, because of that exact thing, the availability to information. We have that at our fingertips, where in those previous revolutions we didn't. I'd say that's a plus in our favor. So also worth noting that in addition to those 550 worldwide investors, there's the rest of the world who will come into the space, not as investors, but as users of the technology. How many of you, so this is a question, how many of you listening to the sound of my voice invested in Apple prior to 2008, when they were on the brink of bankruptcy, before the iPhone came out? How many of you invested in Samsung before 2010, before the advent of Android technology? Not a lot of us. However, you can't swing a dead cat in any country of the world without hitting somebody with a smartphone in their hand. They may be on a Wi-Fi only because they don't have any money for cell minutes, but they've got a phone. It all speaks to the timeline. So in closing, if you can see the progress in the innovation, trust that adoption will follow, as well as a change in the investor sentiment. Folks, if you're looking at the price today and basing how you feel about your investment on the price today, you are not seeing that lush, thriving forest growing through the trees. That's been my view from Costa Rica. Until next time, Pura Vida.